We're back with another one of Nathan Bell's excellent commentary videos, and we want you to hit the like and subscribe button if this is something you're into, and also give this video a share if you think a friend might be interested in it. Today, Nate is going to talk to us about rehabilitation.
Yeah, well, I absolutely believe we should rehabilitate criminals because it's just more productive. You know, when you have to break the cycle of violence. You know, people who are involved in ongoing crime and repeat offenders and get involved in organised crime, they've grown up around that, so it's like a cultural thing where that's what they've seen around them, and all their role models have been like that. So, you know, a lot of these guys and these girls don't understand that there is a different way of being. It's not on their radar that they could live a different way. You know, all they've seen around them for years, you know, growing up in these neighbourhoods and with parents who are involved in crime, all they've seen is crime. So that's the only thing they're aware of, and to some extent the education system can show them that there are other things to focus on. But if that's what's around them everywhere they go in the neighbourhood and in their family and in their household, that's what they're going to know, and that's what they're going to think is normal. So, you know, when it comes to criminals who've offended and ended up in jail, you know, we should try to educate them and show them that there is a different way of being. See, it's all about different people understand life differently, and they see that there are different ways of being. And people who are involved in crime, that's the lifestyle they're immersed in, and they don't necessarily see that there is another way of being. So when people go to jail, we should step in with education and knowledge, and art and therapy, and we should engage them and try and communicate with them about the choices they're making and the lifestyle they're living, and show them, if we can, through knowledge and education and art and therapy, that there is another way of being. And then that resolves crime, because at present we have a prison system where people go in, they might be minor offenders, they might have stolen something, or it might be their first assault, and they go into prison and they become immersed in an even more violent culture where there's even more abuse and violence happening around them, and then they get that behaviour ingrained into them even more. See, because people learn behaviour, you know, and if you're surrounded by guys who are behaving violently, you'll start to adopt those sorts of behaviours. And trauma can cause violence as well. You know, and prison is such a hot environment. Like, you go in there, you have to be guarded and protected. You're always worried you're going to be attacked. You have to affiliate with certain people for safety. You know, it's this cutthroat environment. So we need to clean prisons up and make them. Now, I don't care if people disagree and say that we have to incessantly punish people. You know, you get minor offenders going into prison and they've done one or two things wrong, made one mistake, then they get immersed in this violent prison system and they come out traumatised and act even more violent and re-offend again. So we need to clean up the prison system and make it a friendly and productive environment where prisoners come in having offended and done something bad, and then they're engaged with education, and they're engaged with therapy, and they're engaged with practices that will show them that there is a different way that they can be. Because, as I said, a lot of these guys don't understand that there is another way they can be. And if we changed all our prisons into more rehabilitation centres where people would learn and would study and would be taught skills, I guarantee you the repeat offend rates would drop significantly. And as far as I'm aware, the evidence from countries that do this already is that this works, and it brings down crime rates and it prevents re-offending. So, you know, again, it's just this Australian attitude of incessant punishment and blame, instead of looking at a person as a human being. Because, you know, some prisoners have done absolutely awful crimes, but my general belief about people in general is we're all born into this world and we're all relatively nice, and we want to be good people and we want to live good lives, and I think most people just want to be happy. So if someone falls into a life of violent crime, I ask, how did you end up there, and how do we help you see that there's a better way to be happy? Because as far as I can understand, most people just want to be happy. And, you know, I always think every prisoner that is in the prison system for a violent crime was once a small child, and we don't go around berating small children for being scumbags. So if small children grow up and become scumbags, perhaps we should have some empathy for the circumstances that led to that happening. You know, we should try and remember that everyone was a small child once. You know, everyone was the innocent small child who wasn't, and people become violent offenders, and they become violent, and they become selfish. And who's more selfish anyway? Someone who's been beat up on their whole life and been immersed in crime culture and just perpetuates that, or some privileged rich person who wants to berate them and say it's all their fault. You know, who's more selfish? You know, I don't know. But I know some people live in absolutely traumatic, terrible circumstances throughout their life and have abuse in the household and violence around them. And it's no surprise that they turn out to be violent themselves. But people want to deny that exposure to violence creates more violence, and that exposure to abuse turns people violent. People want to deny that. They want to say it's all your fault and those are the choices you made. But the reality is there is variables in the world which affect us, which are beyond our control. So, you know, we have to start acknowledging. In Australia, we want to say everything is your fault and you're responsible for everything that happens to you. Well, that's not true, because there are many things that happen to people in their lives that are completely out of their control, and those things can destroy them. You know, I've had things happen to me in the last 10 years which were terrible, and which I certainly didn't want and didn't do anything to ask for or to create, and these things happened to me, and it was completely out of my control. And it made me very angry. So I can see how someone who's grown up in a violent, abusive household can become a violent, abusive person. So I absolutely support rehabilitation, because if we rehabilitate criminals, if we engage them with education and art therapy and things that are rewarding for the spirit, for the soul, things that give them purpose and meaning and direction in life, then we will find that they will go on to become suitable members of the community. So we need to take people who are caught up in crazy lifestyles where there's violence and drama and crime, and we need to show them, look, you, instead of behaving that way, why don't you consider behaving this way, and let me tell you why you live a better quality life and you'll be happier if you start to do these sorts of things. Then we say to the criminal, we engage them with art and with history and with science and with knowledge and education, and we show them, look, there's all these things you could be into instead of being into crime. You know, there's all this great stuff. Why don't you get into this stuff instead? And then you know, guys who have spent their whole life being immersed in violent crime and abuse and drugs suddenly go, oh, there's all this stuff. Look at all this science and this art and this culture, and then they get into it, and then they find a new direction and a new purpose and meaning in life, and then they become functional members of society. So we absolutely should heal people, you know, and rehabilitation is a medical issue. A lot of guys who go to prison are heavily addicted to drugs and to heavily addictive drugs, and addiction is a medical issue. So we need to treat these things as medical issues, and we need to heal people. And a lot of people that are involved in violent crime have immense emotional suffering and mental health issues. So we need to address those issues, and then we heal the person, then the person will start to behave in an acceptable way and won't be a violent offender. So, you know, those are my views on why we should rehabilitate people. I absolutely support changing the prison system to involve art and knowledge and education so that we can engage prisoners and help them find a new and better path in life so they can be a better citizen and a better person. So drop a comment in the comment section about what your thoughts are about rehabilitating criminals.